extensive range, record-setting speed, advanced technology, and a top-rated worldwide product support network. The world standard isn't just a company tagline, it's a benchmark by which all others must be measured.
One of the most significant issues facing Canadian operators of all sizes over the past couple of years has been the economy, finding ways to stay profitable, productive, and strong in a challenging environment. We asked our esteemed panel of experts how their companies have weathered the storm and what creative solutions they have put in place during Wings Magazine's second Industry Roundtable June 12th at the CBAA conference in Toronto. You can read the entire story in the September-October issue of Wings Magazine.
So far, we're not seeing any signs of downturn in our business. People are still calling. We've experienced a similar situation as Bill there, with the phone ringing. We're not seeing the kind of charter that we did towards the end of last year, but we're starting to move into the seasonal time here in Ontario as well, where people are heading up to the cottage and up north, and they're not necessarily, going down south.
Yeah.
And that sort of thing. So it's
not really biz av though, just more.
More leisure travel in that regard. But at the moment, we're steady and calm, consistently receiving inquiries from management as well as charter, and no real slowdown in sight at the moment. But it's difficult to say that because you never
it seems
really
like it changes
know.
on a daily basis.
Yeah, our demand for charter is quite unpredictable. And I'm not sure if you guys share some of the similar objectives. We don't have contract runs. We're not running to the oil patch or a dedicated area at Chartwright. We are pure ad hoc. Other than a few block hour agreements with large organizations and individuals, we don't have a predictable demand for charter, which leaves us somewhat vulnerable to changes in the environment. However, we just take it as it comes and be grateful and humble for the business to keep coming through, and just hope that new people understand the value of owning an aircraft and chartering an aircraft for what it does, for their personal life as well as for their business.
That's an interesting point too, is that when you talk about the economy and what happened in Canada, what happened elsewhere, if you want to go up a little bit to about 40,000 feet, first of all, the Canadian economy, even in the downturn, we are pretty tightly fiscally managed in this country in terms of the way our economy has been bubbling along. Mm-hmm. And our resource sector, oil and gas, and has kept us pretty stable in terms of economic growth in this country, even at a conservative 3%. But we're not isolated because of global conditions. It will have an impact. But to Don's point, what we saw in terms of overall trends when the economy did take a dip is a lot of Canadian corporations flying did go up. And why? It's because of the sort of international strategies of a lot of Canadian companies that went looking for merger and acquisition targets that were underpriced in some other slowing economies. And take our banking sector, for example. They did quite a few of international acquisitions in Latin America, South America. Mm-hmm. And so they're, to Don's point, even in a downturn, our flying went up overall because Canadian companies were very aggressive in the international market and looking to seek out new opportunities. So or it's a time to refit your fleet too. When the market went down, prices went down in terms of used inventories of aircraft, and definitely whitetails sitting around, and the pricing was probably the best we were going to get. So we actually saw activity where even in a downturn, people who had the good credit ratings and cash actually upgraded their fleets that were 20 years old, less fuel efficient, to more fuel efficient, more technically capable aircraft that today is serving them better off. So all was not, but I think there's a cautiousness that's become permanent. Mm-hmm. in the economy today when you talk about that?
We buy jets from manufacturers. We sell them to high net worth and ultra high net worth individuals and medium to large corporations. And the total flying once they bought into the aircraft also did go down.
Okay.
And a number of owners and companies cited optics as one of the reasons that, you know, when they were laying off staff, when people were being hurt, they just didn't feel, and this is a Canadian thing again,
Yes.
they just didn't feel right carrying on in their jet to certain locations. And like as to Ian's point, especially the discretionary flying. So total flying went down. Number of sales actually went down as well. I mean, let's face it, really what'll drive growth in aviation is adding more airplanes. The more airplanes we bring in, the more amount of flying will increase. So really, what can we do in Canada to increase jet sales? And that was challenged as well during the downturn because access to credit just dried right up. I had people who wanted to buy but wanted to keep their money in their business and couldn't get credit for aircraft. GE Capital and some of the larger lenders just stopped lending, and those that were lending, the rates were very cost prohibitive. You know, upwards 8, 9, 10%, which used to be good. Now, you know, no one will touch that kind of money. We've gotten used to 3 and 4% money.
Mm-hmm.
So there were a number of factors, but overall, I will say our business definitely dropped off. We are a barometer of the economy as the economy picks up. And that occurred in our FedEx work as well,
Right.
because, you know, people had alternatives. Do they really need the letter there tomorrow by 10 a.m. or could it be there Tuesday by noon? So they would do, you know, deferred service, and so. It really did show up in our business.
Is it rebounding now? Is it?
Yes.
It's
Yeah,
off the
I mean,
cliff, as you said.
on the
but
FedEx side, it's back above where it was, and on the fractional side as well. You know,
Nice.
we sold 2 airplanes in 1 year in 2011, whereas it took us 2 years to sell 2 airplanes in
Wow.
2009, 2010.
Nice.
So it was there's a noticeable difference. You know, with respect to the emerging economies, they go in Asia and Middle East. They are definitely, you know, they were hit a little less hard than America, North America, United States, and Canada. But you know, with respect to business aviation, that really impacted the medium and large size jets. So what manufacturers were finding was that orders did fall off, but mostly in the light to medium category, which was, you know, pretty well the environment we're operating in. And the large jets, you know, were relatively insulated from that for some reason. And I think that's got to do with the emerging economies like China and India and so on.
When you're talking about the economy in
Yes.
Alberta, it's interesting because it's strong and we've had a fantastic year as well, but it brings all sorts of competition out, and that's fine. We like competition. The interesting thing about our business is there's, in my opinion, a wide variance between, and I don't include anyone in this room in this comment, there's a wide variance between quality and pricing.
Right.
So you have people that own aircraft that decide they're going to become a commercial operator, and they're, as opposed to the airline world where pricing is completely consistent, it seems like.
Yeah.
There's very little consistency in pricing. So if you have a good, strong, safe operation with good equipment and you expect a certain return for what you're selling, and then someone comes in whose aircraft, you know, is $2,000 an hour less than yours for the same product, that's what makes it difficult sometimes, even if the economy is strong. So,
You know, that's a really good point that
Yeah, I was
you
going
make.
to say, how do you deal with that then? Like, what's
well, you hang in there for the long run.
We've seen a new interest in our area in the north with a Chinese ownership, Canadian operator or a Canadian company. It was surprising for us that when the world fell apart and things went down to $3 a pound for nickel, that we were still able to make a go of it. And even though we were flying everything into our site 1,200 miles north of here, and it just, we couldn't believe the efficiency of the airplane for the company. You know, the economy is not gonna have much of an impact for us.